The Engadine Valley in the Swiss Alps, the town of St. Moritz, the home of winter sliding sports, and it's on the road between St. Moritz and the village of Celerina. The bobsleigh and skeleton were first invented over a century ago. Hello everybody, welcome to the Bauhaus FIBT Women's Skeleton World Championships at the historic home of ice sliding. I'm Martin Haven. I'm delighted to have alongside me once more Olympic champion John Montgomery. John, this track for over a century has provided thrills and excitement to the sliders.
It's amazing. There's such a rich culture of sliding here in St. Moritz, Switzerland, and it's really a part of the very fabric that makes up this community. And you can see right here at the top of the track some of the very unique characteristics that make St. Moritz so special for the athletes to come to year in and year out. And you're coming into the first, what they call Kink 1. And a lot of the parts on this track, well, all the parts on this track for that matter, don't have numbers. They've got names. Coming into Kink 2 here, you can see that those two corners are very low profile, and there's not a whole lot going on there. And then between them are these incredibly long straightaways. Into your first named corner, which is wall, you can see that there's some very subtle oscillations in there. Coming into S1, a high curve, and S2, a left and a right. Coming into one of my favorite parts of the track, Sunny. The first part of the track to get some sun in the day. Coming into this next part, Nash, and then Dixon. And then moving down into one of the most famous and iconic corners in the world, Horseshoe. Can give the athletes some problems. Wanting to get out of there smooth, a single oscillation corner. Coming into Telephone and Shamrock. And then the next long left-hand curve into Devil's Dyke before you get into Nameless and Tree. You got a combination of right-hand turns here, 4 in a row. Bridge, and then Leap, and then Sax Gunta. And then you're getting into the highest speed part of the track at the very bottom here, 138 kilometers an hour. Athletes have been approaching this week into Martineau, and then into Portego, your very last left-hand corner there, across the finish line. And it is the longest track on tour at around 1,800 meters. We're going to see times today somewhere in the neighborhood of around a minute and a minute 10, plus that, if depending on the weather. And you can feel how much longer it is when you're on that sled. Your neck gets that much more tired, and you've got to be that much more on your game because of the length of the track.
The track is built by hand every single year, and like anything else that's tailor-made, it has slight variations. So even athletes that have been here for generations need to learn the subtleties every time. Well, the weather conditions after a fairly hot day yesterday, -3, ice down at -6. The overnight low was only down to about -8 or 9, as opposed to -25 as it was during the week last week. So the track always speeds up. And John, this is the unique nature here. If you get start draw number 1 on an artificial track, you get the best ice. Here, the later you go, the better the ice tends to be.
That's right. They don't have a big spritz like we do on the artificial tracks. And when you get a spritz, it's a bit of warm water that they glaze over the ice. And the artificial track, it takes away the frost, and it allows the first athletes to be quicker. Here, we've got to rely on the sun today, and the track will speed up as we go along.
Well, the draw is chosen in Heat 1. The World Cup points leader gets to choose where she wants to go, and in fact, she chose to go last, Marion Thies. And then on, they choose their positions. In Heat 2, the fastest 20 will go first, 20 down to 1, and then the rest of the field will continue in the order in which they finished. Tomorrow, the second day of competition, the third and fourth heat, they go in position their ranking first to last, and then the field is cut to 20 from 29 sliders that will start the race, and the 20 will go down to 1 in the order of which the leader goes last of all to try and defend her 3-round lead. So for young Slovenian, Sara Levencic, start draw number 1 for her, big day for her. She'll be the first one on the ice. And in our 29 sleds from 21 countries, it will be the World Cup points leader, Marion Thies, who goes last, because she had the best choice and she went for start draw number 21. There were a couple that didn't go logically for the next lowest number that was available. Noelle Piker's pace manages to get 24 start draw because a few of the other girls just opted to hedge their bets a little. But this is going to be a very hard race to read because there are so many girls here who could potentially win this title. So a big morning for Sara Levencic of Slovenia. Most of our camera crew here are Slovenians. She and her teammate were most surprised to be greeted by a dozen rowdy men cheering them in their native language in training. Former basketballer and 400-meter hurdler. And she gets our World Championships underway. Well, John's just 23 years old, a couple of World Cup appearances at the end of the season to sort of get her into big game mode. And one of the slighter, younger athletes, she's going to give us an idea perhaps of what to expect.
And you can see already some of the challenges at the top of the track. It's keeping those sled runners parallel and not wandering and stretching out the distance of the track, which is already incredibly long. Coming out of wall, you can see that she's taken a bump there on the right-hand side. And that's going to be one of the challenges today, is to get that lined up, that exit from wall into Snake 1, and then into this amazing corner we call Sunny here. You can hear how much quieter, well, it's supposed to be if she stays off the walls, because it is that much less noisy than a regular artificial track. Getting up nice and high and portion like she's supposed to. Coming out of there with 95.8 kilometers an hour. We're going to see some of the top athletes come on at the end of the run here. Marion, Anya, Sarah, Elizabeth, approaching 101 kilometers an hour. And you can, I think, see some of the girls who are starting later sitting down there at the bottom of the track watching lines, because there's 29 females in this race today.
Well, I often wonder about that. You know, if you are going a little bit later, do you watch the first few runners to get tips on just how skiddy or otherwise the track is?
Coming across the line in 1:13.44, it's going to be a time that we will see beat repeatedly as we move along the competition here. But Martin, you're right, it's a really individual thing for the athletes, and I think some of them who haven't quite nailed down their game plan yet, you're going to see them trackside watching the athletes, especially some of the ones who aren't doing a whole lot of steering. They're letting things go. You can see what is actually happening to the athlete. Coming out of wall curve here, you can see that she gets pulled back. The pressure wasn't quite done. It pulls the athlete back to the right-hand side, and she takes a small brush there on the wall before going into Snake 1 and getting a little bit skiddy coming out of Sunny Corner as well. Early in the morning, the track is incredibly hard here. We very rarely have seen ice on tour this year at -6 degrees Celsius.
Well, next up and blasting off very quickly is Giulia Carpin of Italy. First time we've ever seen her. She's not competed in a World Cup race before. Again, another former sprinter. She was a long jumper as well. A little bit of a quicker start under her belt.
It's crazy to think that her first major international competition is a World Championships, and she's going off second. That's not an experience that most athletes get to have. And the reason why she is here, we haven't seen her before on the World Cup Tour, Martin, is because she gets to qualify for this through the lower level circuits on the Europa Cup Tour, where you can earn points. And because Italy doesn't have a women's athlete that's been present all season long on the World Cup Tour, she's been able to qualify for this major championship through the lower circuits.
Well, definitely being second on the ice with all the kerfuffle of the World Championships, the cameras around her, I'm sure it was a little bit of a distraction. Better speed than Sarah Levancic, but she did have a big, long slide there. It shows just how glassy the ice is.
And when the athletes aren't perfectly still, especially with these 4 right-hand corners at the very bottom of the track, you can really break away quite easily. And when you're not linking up that exit to the next entrance, you're just going to be brushing speed the whole way down that bottom portion of the track. And I'm all too familiar with that going on this week.
1:13.11, so she comes through in the leads. The green on her name shows that she is our current leader. Little lower speed coming down the bottom of the track. 129.5, 80.5 miles an hour. You can hear just how crunchy the ice is. It almost seems facetious to say the ice is very slippery, but it is very slippery.
Well, and because they don't have a natural refrigeration plant, they've got to rely on the altitude here. The temperatures get incredibly low at night because of how high we are in the mountains right now, and it just lends itself to being able to maintain this track for the 3 months that it's open during the season. But it is very, very hard ice in the morning, and it's required because they do not, like we said, have a refrigeration plant to maintain this track.
26-year-old Maria Montellano from Barcelona, one of 2 Spanish athletes in the field, the other one being Anders Mirambel in the men's race. 5:58 getaway, travels and trains a lot with Sarah Levancic of Slovenia. They're almost a 2-girl international team.
We've actually, as the Canadian crew, been helping Maria this week with some video and stuff. I know that some of the other nations have been helping Ander, the Swiss namely, and we've been lending a hand to Maria as well. And this week, and I know she's grateful for that. All the athletes are incredibly grateful for the help that they do receive when they are a small nation. And you can see that she's piecing it together pretty well here at the top of the track. Still in the green, so things are going well for her. Really low line through Horseshoe. The idea in Horseshoe is to go in late, have a single oscillation corner, and take it to the roof. And you can see some of these first athletes taking a little bit lower line in there. It's a little bit safer, but you do brush more speed, and you don't get to generate as much as some of the top athletes are going to.
10th of a second up. She had a little low line, and flop off Horseshoe cost her a bit in speed. What she got at the bottom, top speed 130.3, hits the wall. 127, that's going to bring the gap right down. It's almost uphill all the way here to the finish line. And 700ths of a second behind.
And you can see my coach Duff there, watching her in the leader's box. He was helping her sled dog. The sled dog is the individual who brings your sled to the line on race day, and that's really the only time of the week where you get that help.
You know, some of these girls are really quite tiny, and the sled's not the lightest thing either.
Not at all. They're actually deceivingly heavy, and you can see her there. Underneath that yellow sign is where you want to have your peak. She gets pulled up here at the end of the corner because she was low, down too soon, and the pressure comes back before the end of the corner. You can see that the athletes get pulled up here, and in the past, they were running the risk of hitting that wood there at the end of the corner, but they have done some work last year, I believe, to Horseshoe, which is really the only permanent structure on this track, and they've made it a little bit easier.
Michaela Glesser from the Czech Republic, again making her first televised appearance this season. Hasn't raced in the World Cup. She's been in the Intercontinental Cup, the second tier of sliding. She has been a regular World Cup competitor.
For a natural track that doesn't have any refrigeration or any permanent structures to it, the track is incredibly smooth. The ice has such a smooth surface to it. The gentlemen that make this track aren't newbies at it, let's just say that. Every year, the same crew comes over from Italy, and I believe Portugal, if I'm not mistaken, and they create this thing using string, front-end loaders, and ice and snow that they pack and shape to this perfectly, beautifully manicured track. Michaela getting a little bit higher than some of the other athletes have, and that's the kind of game plan that they want to bring into that corner. 98.3 speed coming out of that corner. She seems to be holding things together pretty well. She had a start deficit, but she might be able to pick away at that here at the bottom of the track. She's into the green now.
Well, she had a great exit from Sunny that brought her from 4/10ths back to 1400ths back exiting Horseshoe, and now she's streaking away in the lead using her experience. 132, wow. Top speed is 82.1 miles an hour.
That's an incredible run, and she's going to be really happy with this, I think. At 112.69, she might find herself picking up some spots here as the next athletes in front of her come down the track.
Well, she's the most experienced of the girls in the early numbers, definitely. You earn less points for positions in the lower degrees categories than you do in World Cup, so that's why she got a later start draw.
They do. They don't award the same, like you were saying, Martin, the same level of points for a first place finish in Europa Cup as they do on the World Cup Tour. The level of competition isn't as steep, but you can see her getting really close to the roof, and that is an ideal line right there. She should be really happy with that run and try to replicate it 3 more times here.
Well, next up at the top of the track is our first Swiss athlete, Barbara Hosch, and she is starting from, well, 23rd in the World Cup ranking, so she gets one of the last start draws. And she said, actually, she almost went for start draw number 1. Normally when she trains, being the only girl in the Swiss training sessions, she normally ends up at start draw number 1. She thought she'd just avoid it this time. 5:82 is her getaway.
And Barbara is headed home right now. She actually lives at the bottom of this track here in St. Moritz. The community at the bottom of the track is Celerina, and that's how these sliding sports got started, really as a competition between local people here, sliding from St. Moritz to the community at the bottom of the track. And Barbara's headed home right now. And her dad is a Cresta athlete, and they have their run just on the other side of the road here in St. Moritz. And we were lucky enough actually to be able to go to the Cresta Club this week, which is a pretty exclusive group of gentlemen from all around the world who do a skeleton-style sport head first down the Cresta run, and that is really the predecessor to all the sliding sports here, bobsled, luge, and skeleton, Martin.
Well, the 2 winter games here in 28 and 48, it was the Cresta run that was the Olympic skeleton track, and it wasn't then until 2002 in Salt Lake the skeleton made its modern appearance in the game. So it's still, it's a sport as historic as bobsledding, but to the general public seems, you know, quite new. 100th in front, Barbara Hosch.
Oh, and she's going to be working hard just to maintain that. I don't think she'll have it at the finish line. Oh, she does. She keeps it. Good for her.
112.68 to 112.69 of Michaela Glesser.
That's really good.
It's going to be a story all the way down the order. There will be tight little battles between athletes of a very similar level.
And Barbara right now can lay claim to the lead in the World Championships. That's a pretty special thing. You can see her coming through Kreisel here. She's dragging her toe, trying to keep herself a little bit lower and turn that sled. And she took it right to the nice apex of that corner, right below that yellow sign, and gets that slingshot effect out of Horseshoe. Taking a bit of a bump here before going into, I believe that was Devil's Dyke at the bottom of the track.
So there's Barbara. Now she slides the Cresta Run as well. 1 day a year women are allowed to slide it. They have a women's race.
Bit of an old boys club there with some old school rules that they like to keep that tradition alive.
Definitely. Next up, Nozomi Komuro of Japan. Now regular fans will remember Nozomi. She hasn't raced in the World Cup this year. Again, an ICC starter. Got a good quick sprinting start. 27-year-old. And that is a decent getaway, 5:35, and that puts her getting on for half a second quicker than the girls we've seen up until now.
And Nozomi's really trying to put together one of her best finishes here at World Championships. Her best result before that was a 4th place at Lake Placid last year at the World Championships there, narrowly missing a World Championship medal. And World Cup, excuse me, not World Championships, but she is trying to capitalize on some great results that she's had at the elite level. And she knows what it's like to compete with these girls, and she's trying to get that done again.
We talk about this being a cerebral sport as much as a physical one, about the mental attitude. Barbara Hosch speaks half a dozen different languages. Michaela Gless is a patents lawyer. Nozomi works at the university in Sendai in Japan, close to where she lives. There's a lot of very bright girls doing what ostensibly seems like a very dumb thing.
They're taking calculated risks here, Martin, and you can just tell the quality of sliding that Nozomi is putting down here relative to those athletes that have just come down the track. She's been really composed, really nice lines, and it's evident in the fact that she is already 1 second in the lead.
1:11.61. That's a very nice slide for Nozomi Komuro. Now the track will get quicker. We will definitely see faster slides, but if she can haul herself from her start draw of, well, kind of the end of the 30s, back up into the teens, she's got a real chance.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, Martin, and say that Nozomi's run is probably going to place her somewhere around 10-11 here in the first heat, and I think that she's going to be really pleased with that. Nozomi
Komuro, our race leader from Barbara Hosch of Switzerland. Michaela Gless of the Czech Republic lies in 3rd. 7th are 29 sliders in the first of 4 heats in the Women's Skeleton World Championship is Marina Giardoni of Switzerland. Like so many in this area, speaks Swiss Deutsch and Italian, the 2 languages very prevalent here. We're close to the Italian and Austrian borders in this part of Switzerland. Another good getaway, 5.27, a former break woman for bobsled. She's the Swiss champion.
And no matter which language you say it in, she's going to be going for what they call the start record. She's not going to be necessarily pushing for the track record, which she, I believe, currently owns. Or, excuse me, no, that was broken in the team competition, but she had it before at the Swiss Championships here before Christmas, and she still does own the start record, which she's going to be chasing and trying to eclipse her previous mark set just before Christmas this year.
Well, bearing in mind the track's a little frosty this morning, her start 5:27, just 100th away from that record. A little wild on that slightly longer exit of Horseshoe this year.
Yeah, a little bit easier, but when you've got, I guess, some sort of muscle memory in your body with how you've navigated that corner in the past, it can be a little bit treacherous trying to get your brain wrapped around how to navigate it this year when it is different.
1/4 of a second up on Nozomi Komuro of Japan. Little brush on the wall. 1:31.4, quicker than the Japanese girl. She should extend that advantage, maybe up to 0.4 of a second. Getting close. 1:11.24.
Really great run for her. And she's had some sliding time here before Christmas and since then with some extra training, being that she's got the home track advantage, and her level of familiarity just showed itself there with her extending her lead over Nozomi. You're going to see most of the athletes putting their runner in that right-hand groove there, because when you're entering kink 1, which is corner 1 on this track, you really want to be able to turn the sled just as she's done here at the exit of Horseshoe. You want to get it up to the roof, turn the sled down, and she does break out into a bit of a skid trying to stay off that entrance to telephone.
So Marina Giardoni with a big start and the race lead at the moment. Next up at the top of the ice is young Latvian prodigy Lelda Preģelēna. Lelda still in her teens, broke onto the World Cup last season, just 19 years old, and didn't start sliding until the autumn of 2010.
Hard to believe that somebody can be on the World Championship Tour and the World Cup Tour, competing at her second World Championships at such a ripe age, and having only been sliding for just over 2.5 years now.
Of course, one of her huge advantages is that although Latvia is a tiny nation and have got a very small skeleton team, the two male skeleton sliders, Martins and Thomas Ducours, among the very best in the world.
But there's not a whole lot of depth on the women's side, which lends itself to athletes like Lil Day being able to get experience at the elite level here on the World Cup Tour. And you can see that her visor is black. Some of the other athletes you'll see with clear ones. I myself this week am wearing an orange one to help cut the sunlight that we get from the glare on the track here. But Lil Day opting for the blacked out, murdered look here of the all-black dark visor.
Well, of course, one of the things about the track, as you can see from all the shots around, is there is snow everywhere. There's no green, no grey, as we so often see on the artificial tracks. So, yeah, there's a lot of glare.
Sometimes hard to pick up the subtleties of the track, where the beginning of the corner actually begins. You can't see it because all there is white down there, and you get sort of lost. And Lil Day coming across with a 3/4 of a second deficit over our current race leader.
That leaves her in third place at the moment, behind Marina Giardoni and Nozomi Komuro. And certainly if she's going to spend the summer in the gym training with Martins and Thomas, she's going to come out stronger and faster next season.
You can see that sun just starting to peek over those mountains, starting to put a little bit of heat into the track, glistening the top layer there, and you can see it starting to get just a little bit shiny. Lil Day coming down the exit of Nash Dixon there, into Horseshoe a little bit early, not allowing her, to get the kind of height that she would have liked.
And there is Lelja Prejilena. As next to the top of the track, we have Maria Mazilou of Romania. Again, an occasional World Cup slider, a rookie in last season, still just 20 years old.
Sliding on some Willy Schneider equipment, the coach of the Russian program. They've been doing pretty well this week. You can see the kind of rock that she has in her runners there is pretty significant, not allowing her maybe to keep those runners as parallel as she would like coming down from kink 2 to wall.
A lot of steering. Her right foot seems to be a lot higher in the air than her left foot the whole time down here.
Well, she's steering the entire way. She's not happy with her line, and so she's got her knee injected into that sled, having the one foot higher than the other. And when you're steering the entire time, not allowing the sled to run out, you're definitely not going to be fast. And she's already behind, 6/10 behind the leader at the exit of Horseshoe, with 99 kilometers an hour, coming through Devil's Dyke.
99 clicks is the fastest we've seen so far, so can she close the gap down?
And obviously she's on some very unaggressive runners compared to some of the other athletes coming down the track, because she was steering the whole way but still not losing time, and she had decent speeds. Wasn't able to piece it together at the bottom of the track. Thus she only has 129 kilometers an hour compared to 133, and coming across the line 6/10 back of our leader.
So a 10th faster than the last slider we saw, Lelja Prejilena, so she moves into third place. And the gap first to second, 0.37 Marina Giardoni to Nozomi Komuro, 6,500s back Maria Mazilou. The Romanians with men and women's bobsleigh and men and women's skeleton also partaking in the team competition. Very high line there, John.
Yeah, she went late into the Saxgunta corner there, or sorry, the bridge corner at the end of the track there. And you get this inverted feeling in some of these corners when you go in late, and that is definitely one of them. You actually feel like you're upside down, and I know for a fact she felt like she was upside down there, being as late as she was into that corner, getting a little bit panicked and coming out skiddy.
25-year-old Joske Lekan from the Netherlands. Again, another one of these girls that you think ought to have better things to do with her life. She's a policy maker for the Dutch Motorcycle Federation. Spends her life trying to keep motorcyclists safe.
And yet hurls herself head first down this frozen toilet chute we call a bobsleigh.
Well, they're only doing like 98 miles an hour.
The perception is that it's a bit crazy, but in fact, it's incredibly safe. We saw those Cresta athletes going down the track there the other day, and their track isn't designed to keep you within its confines. You can see the lip on the corner of Wall there. You'll see the lip on the corner of Snake 1 and Snake 2. These curvatures keep us within the confines of this track. In Cresta, they're not there. They don't exist. They have spikes on their toes, and they drag themselves around corners. Otherwise, they get ejected. And that, to me, is completely bananas.
Well, they love it, so you've got to, you know, it takes all sorts, as they say.
Yeah, indeed. To each their own.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of sliders, I'm sure a lot of bobsledders look at skeleton and think, no, you wouldn't get me on one of those in a million years.
Most of them
vice
wouldn't
versa.
fit on a skeleton sled because they're mammoth animals.
5/10ths behind, rather, for Joska LeConte. I think your prediction about Marina Giordoni is going to be well held, because her run is still going to take some beating.
Both Marina and Nozomi are still picking up spots here compared to some of these other athletes who have had the opportunity to pick up more points on the World Cup Tour. Joska LeConte has been a World Cup athlete all season long, earning more points for some of the lower results that she's achieved on the World Cup Tour compared to some of her fellow sliding compatriots here today.
Best result for Joska was 11th in Whistler in Canada at the end of the North American swing.
Joska's got a really good, powerful start there. She's digging hard, and she definitely ran it over the crest there. That's what you want to see the athletes do. Get over the crest and accelerate downhill. The earlier you load, the less advantage you've got to take of that start ramp, sorry.
Switzerland's Marina Giordoni leads here in beautiful St. Moritz. We still have another 19 sleds to come. Stay with us.
Ein herzliches Willkommen unseren Schülern aus den umliegenden Gemeinden. Wir freuen uns sehr, dass die Schulen uns heute hier am Olympiawappen St. Moritz Celerina besuchen. Vielleicht entsteht aus diesem Besuch in späteren Jahren einmal ein Champion am Olympiawappen St. Moritz Celerina.
Check.
Okay, talk to me again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, well, it's just popping a little bit, so I'll just
Okay.
try and move it a little further. And there we go, just a little out of the windstream.
Okay. How many kilometers you make?
In der Startbox nun Svetlana Vassiljeva, Russland. Noch 30 Sekunden bis zum Start. Noch 20 Sekunden bis zum Start. 10 Sekunden. In der Startbox, Svetlana Vassiljeva,
Top of the track, Women's Skeleton World Championships in sunny St. Moritz. And the first of 4 Russian sliders, Svetlana Vassiljeva, took a season out in the post-Olympic years to start her family, and has returned to the Russian team and back in fighting form. One of the fastest starters in the first heat, Martin Haven, and Olympic champion John Montgomery watching the action. Fast in training. Let's see what her first start is. That's quick, 5:30. Track record, John, is 5:26.
Beautiful line at the exit of kink 1 there, coming down to kink 2 and continuing that excellent line. She is moving the least amount and tracking exceptionally straight from corner to corner there. That's going to set her up for a nice split here at wall, coming into snake 1. Good looking line there. A little bit skiddy on snake 2, and you can see her back end break away at the exit of that corner. She's 800s behind right now. See what she can do coming into horseshoe here. She's going in late, which looks good. Taking it very high to the roof. Beautiful looking line, but she comes across a bit aggressively at the exit of that corner, bumping before telephone. And that's the risk you run when you take it that high in horseshoe.
Good speed, 98.2. Only a couple of sliders have been faster. She's She's into the lead.
400s coming around those corners, linking up her entrances and exits very nicely on those 4 right-handers at the bottom of the track, coming into Martineau with a speed of 132.6. She should be coming across the line, maintaining her lead.
82.5 miles an hour. That's the fastest speed we've seen, and Svetlana takes the lead. We haven't seen a lot of her in the last couple of years in World Cup racing, but she's comfortably the most experienced of the Russian girls. In fact, she had, quote, retired for a season and a half before most of the girls that are sliding with her now actually made the team.
So you're getting really high here in Horseshoe. That's an exceptional line. Now, when she comes off the corner here, she continues her steering a little bit long and drives herself early and bumps before telephone, sending her a little bit low and brushing some speed that she could have used at the bottom of the track there.
Well, I'm not sure if she's happy with that or disappointed with it.
Well, you saw her Russian coach there, Thomas Platzer. He's the giant of a man. He used to do skeleton and bobsled himself, but his dad, Heine Platzer, is actually the gentleman who really took Cresta onto the bobsled run here and created modern-day skeleton.
I expect another explosive start from this woman, Catherine Eustace of New Zealand, one of 2 Kiwi athletes on tour. 5:37, joint fastest start, and again, just 100th away from the start record.
Really continuing the trend that we've seen from her all season long with these great push starts that she has really developed over this last year. She was nursing an injury last year, and Catherine has been coming out of that injury and able to really put together the physicality of her sport and show us what she's capable of here on the starts.
She had great speed, very good momentum. Let's see what she can produce. Again, one of the longer athletes. She's taller than a lot of the girls in the field. And John, all sorts of bodies seem to work on skeleton, but it does allow her perhaps to use the weight and the length of her body at aerodynamic efficiency here.
She is taller, and she's coming out of Horseshoe with 100.1 kilometers an hour. And Catherine and I see pretty much eye to eye. And I don't mean that we have the same point of view on everything, but she's about 5'9", and she is one of the taller athletes on tour, using that length and that range on her start, and also to affect her aerodynamics here. And you can see it evident in 132.6 at the bottom of the track. She's in the green. She's going to stay there coming across the finish line with 3/10 of a lead.
That was a big run from Catherine Eustace, 1:10.74. Track record set by Noel Piker's pace in the team race last weekend, 1:08.9, but it was very cold and very fast. I wonder if we're going to get down to that today.
And much later in the day, Martin, I don't think we'll probably see the girls approach that time there. That track record should stand. She had a blitzkrieg run that day, and I don't think the girls are going to see it, even with nice high lines like that in Horseshoe from Catherine. Nice and early and smooth into telephone. That's the kind of line that the athletes want to achieve there. She should be happy with that.
Nailed that exit, and that is the key. Next up, again, Katharina Heinz from Germany. Slider that we've not seen all season long, just 25 years old, multiple German champion and German junior champion. And she was the junior world champion and ICC Cup champion back in 2009.
We've seen a number of athletes in this third position on the female side of things. We've seen Kathleen Lorenz, we saw Sarah Sartor, and now Katharina Heinz is back. She was around all last season, but did the Intercontinental Cup Tour this year and earned enough points that she is now the third woman on the German team at this point.
The great thing about the clear eyes, you can just watch where the eyes are looking, and John, that's part of the key to driving any turn, is you've got to follow your eyes.
You do, and sometimes you really have to close your eyes and actually feel the corner, because your eyes can be deceptive. And with her start deficit, she's already 4/10 back, but she is really having some smooth lines here at the top of the track. See what kind of speed she can generate coming out of Horseshoe. Bit of a lower line there. She's 5/10 back, 99.3. Doesn't have the same kind of speed that we've seen from some of the quicker athletes.
She's about third or fourth in the speed traps. Gap is growing.
Not bad lines, though. She might have some sharper runners on compared to some of the faster athletes. 133.7, that's some of the quickest speeds we've seen at the bottom of the track, but it's not going to be enough to erase that 5/10 deficit that she's currently got.
Takes away a 10th, 1:11.22.
German coaches aren't incredibly enthusiastic about that, but I'm sure they could be more disappointed. That was a pretty good-looking run.
Well, the remaining 2 German girls in the field have got 3 World Championship titles between them, so they're looking a little higher up the order, perhaps.
Here she is at the end of horseshoe. You can see the pressure come back a little bit, getting a little bit weightless there at the end of the corner, and it crosses her a little bit tough. And that pressure comes back because she is so low. She's down lower than some of the other athletes. The pressure comes back. You see her getting weightless there. Crosses her pretty hard, and she has to work a little bit to stay off the entrance of telephone.
Next up at the top of the track is Olga Potylitsina, second in the Junior World Championships last year. A huge Formula One fan. Fernando Alonso is her hero. She has one World Cup win under her belt, won the season opener last year, and has yet to get close to repeating that form. But a 5:33 getaway, that's good for her.
Quick start there. And we haven't seen her starts that competitive all season long, so she's really peaking at the optimal time here. Her periodization of her training, her coach should be very proud of that. Nice early line into snake 1. Gets her a little bit later into snake 2. When you come in early to snake 1, it pushes you low, your height is late, and then you skid a little bit later into S2. But she's put it back together quite nicely here since that small breakout. Really high line there. Bumps before telephone because she was around the corner a little bit too long. She needed it to steer a little bit more aggressively at that height there, but comes out with 100.1 speeds.
Equal fastest with Catherine Eustace, 62.2 miles an hour, 500ths of a second. The lead is coming down to the Kiwi.
Drifting a little bit from these right-hand corners at the bottom of the track, working to get back in early.
Needs 132.6. She's got 132.1. She's behind. Be maybe a 1/10 of a second behind by the line.
Oh.
Little skid, and she almost reeled her back in. 110.72, 100th of a second back.
And 3 more runs to be able to get that 100th back from Catherine Eustace that she's currently behind, and she's going to be looking for some more athletes in front of her too. That's the thing about World Championships. It's a 4-run combined total, just like the Olympics, and you have to be consistent, twice as much as you do in a regular race, because there's 2 extra runs here. You can see her coming across a little bit aggressively off of horseshoe into telephone and taking a bit of a bump there. That would definitely be where she could find the 100th.
Well, training yesterday afternoon, last 2 training trips, was much warmer, the ice quite a lot softer. Do you think that's having a big effect on where they're steering?
Well, not necessarily where they're steering, but the kind of influence that their steering might have, Martin. When they put that knee into the sled on warmer ice, it's going to have more effect than when you do it on cold ice. You might have to steer a little bit harder.
Yelena Nikitina turned 21 just 12 days ago. The Junior World Champion. She's the 4th Russian slider. Junior World Champion in each discipline. Gets a free bye into the Worlds. Made her World Cup debut in Winterberg. And she's already had a number of gold medals in the 2nd tier of sliding this season.
World Junior Champion right here. That's why the Russians have 4 women in today's race. And, ooh, taking a little bit of a hit out of there at kink 2. And if you were to be able to design a computer program to spit out an athlete that might be really suitable for the sport of skeleton, Miss Nikitina here might be what the computer program spits out in terms of size, length, and start quality. She's got long legs for a really quick getaway. She's very slight, small shoulders, and if she can piece together her driving here in this run and the 3 to come after it, she should be very competitive, but she has been having a bit of a rough go here on this first getaway. 5/10 back already, and with only 98 kilometers of an hour speed coming out of horseshoe, she doesn't stand a chance of finding that speed at the bottom of the track. It's just impossible to get it back. We don't have an engine. We don't have an accelerating device other than gravity, and you just can't make it up if you bleed it at the top.
Well, she's had 3 World Cup starts, a 10th, impressive on her debut, 13th next time out. Oh, yes, and she won, didn't she, the last race in Eagles, Austria, going away from the field by some margin. Well, 6th position, 1:11.50, something to work with.
And she had a lot of time in the Eagles this year. She did World Juniors there. She did the training before the Eagles race week, and had a lot of experience there. On a track like Eagles, you can just sort of lay on your sled, let your start do the work for you. St. Moritz, you can't necessarily do that.
She won 2 second-tier ICC races in Eagles before the World Cup race, and she's got a great start as well.
Bit of a rough load there, and she's really digging her toe in. Look, she's kicking it before she's out of the groove. There's no point in doing that because you can't steer out of the groove. So she was getting a bit excited there.
Yeah,
and it could be some World Championship inexperience going on there, just doing some things that she didn't necessarily need to do.
Next up, one of the fastest starters in the field, Great Britain's Donna Crichton, 27-year-old, originally from Portsmouth, now lives in Yeovil, with the Blackrock sled, Cletus Maurice Blackrock. Start record is a 5.26, being yelled on by Lizzie Arnold and the rest of the team at the top.
Did you say Cletus Maurice?
Cletus Maurice Blackrock.
Wow, that sounds like somebody maybe from Kentucky, not necessarily from England.
Well, they have odd names for their sleds, some of them. Some definitely not repeatable on air. 5.26 ties the start record. And she's now just slipped a fraction behind Marina Giardoni of Switzerland.
Nice line through snake curves there. Didn't get skiddy, comes out, pointed nicely back at Sunny. Sunny's got to be one of the smoothest corners in the world. Every time you slide in there, you really realize how quiet you are here in St. Moritz. And I'm sure she's not thinking about that right now. The importance of this World Championship race for her and her program. Nice exit it there, though.
Oh, she needs to find some speed. 98.7. Our leader, Catherine Eustace, was 100.1 kilometers an hour there. That's a full mile an hour slower.
And about a sled length higher in Horseshoe. So the lower you come through Horseshoe, the less speed you can generate through that slingshot effect out the end of that corner.
131.7, that's decent speed. We've seen a lot slower than that. Will she be able to close? No, because Catherine Eustace was going quicker. 111.65. Donna will be disappointed with that. 8th place at the moment. We're only halfway through our field.
I'm not sure how she trained yesterday, but 8th after her first heat there. Probably not the number that she would like to see when she crosses that finish line, looking up at that scoreboard coming up the outrun. A little bit late there, and that's probably where she bled a lot of her speed at the top of the track there. Missing kink 2 and hitting the wall at the end of that corner there definitely bleeds your speed tremendously because it's so flat after that, Martin, you've got no opportunity to pick it back up.
Catherine Eustace of New Zealand, our race leader, from Olga Potilitsina and Svetlana Vasilieva. 17th of our 29 sliders in the first of 4 heats in the Women's World Championship. Another big starter. This Russian girl, Maria Oliver, has trained very quick, but has still to stitch one really good run together.
Well, she's usually good for one. Wow, 5:23 start record right now. And that might be really tough to break. That's an amazing feat for Maria. She hasn't been that competitive with the rest of the field on the start all season long, so we know that her training has been periodized for her to peak here at World Championships, the most important race of the season.
Her starts have definitely been picking up in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and that's the result.
And she's got 2/10 of a lead coming into Sunny Corner here with some really nice driving at the top of the track.
Still only 24 years old, despite the fact she's been sliding for 6 years in the Russian program.
Low line through Horseshoe. She's probably not going to have necessarily the speed that we saw from Catherine, and it's evident there, 99.9.
Close, 2300s up on Catherine Eustace.
You can start to see some of the lines that the sleds have been putting down there. It's a little bit shinier than the rest of the track, and that's what allows some of the athletes to come down later to have better speeds, is that the track has been somewhat polished by the runners who have come in front of them. You can see the sun shining on the bottom of the track there between Martineau and Portego.
You heard her helmet scraping there as you hit that compression between Martineau and Portago where the track stops going down and going up. And John, that's about the only thing you can hear. Even when you stood on the ice wall, you just get the whistle as the sled goes by.
It's awesome to watch athletes come down, especially at the bottom of the track where they are ripping. They're going, well, sometimes 138. Today, 131, 133 for speeds at the bottom. Maria at the top of the track here, really getting that power into the ice, running well over the crest. And you can see her trying to come back to these entrances on the bottom of the track here, these 4 right-hand corners. The idea is to get off early, bring it back to the entrance without doing a whole lot of work. She's got 131.8 at the bottom of the track. Not the best speed, but not bad either.
Well, that start was 0.2 of a second quicker than she was doing yesterday. No wonder she's struggling to hold on to that speed. Next up, Janine Flock of Austria. Janine, just 23 years old. Started sliding, though, age 13 at the Eagles track outside Innsbruck, her hometown. So she's got plenty of ice experience. See the little logo on the front? Not sure what the German for holy cow is, but there you go.
Yeah, they don't start them any earlier than they do in Austria. Really nice early entrance into kink 2 there, allowed her to do very little work, got off the corner early, and lined up nicely for the entrance of wall.
On those shots especially, it's so easy to see the runners sideways, and hers were almost straight all the way down.
Low through S2 there, but she was off S1 early. Nice into S2 and smooth into Sunny.
Well, one of the things you see with Janine, and this is the discipline you learn at Eagles because it's an aero track, is keeping your form, heels together, arms clamped to your side as much as possible.
Form is so important to this sport, and she was really allowed to be able to develop that aspect of her sliding on a track like Eagles, where that's the one thing you can concentrate on because you don't have to think about driving so much as you do in other places, like St. Moritz here. When you don't have to think about your form, you can concentrate on the driving. And she's getting a little bit loose there at the bottom of the track, trying to bring it back early to that entrance. Sachs Günther.
Dragging on the ice, 130 kilometers an hour, 81.5 miles an hour. We say, well, that wasn't very quick, but yeah, 81 miles an hour with your chin on the ice always feels quick.
And it's a really weird sensation at the bottom of the track, being so quiet. You can feel that wind just whistling by you. And because we are so high in the mountains here, it is most of the time quite brisk, and so you're really aware of how cold it is. Coming into Horseshoe, so much lower than some of the other athletes we've seen who generated a lot of speed out of that corner. Gets picked up at the end and crossed hard into telephone. That's not going to allow you to generate the speed, because when that pressure comes back, your runners dig in more. You can see her fighting to bring it back early to this corner, breaking out and skidding, again scrubbing speed.
So Janine Flock of Austria currently lying in 6th position. Next up, Lucy WCh of Australia, 28-year-old teacher from Perth in Western Australia. Just 5'5". Both the Aussie girls are really quite petite. But she and her teammate Michelle Steele, both quick starters.
Getting into the grouping of athletes now that we're going to start to see some real jockeying for position. We're going to see how good the leader's time is right now when we start to get into the top 10.
We're giving away 0.2 of a second to Maria Oliver, the start record holder, who's our race leader. It's going to take a lot of this 1.5 miles of ice to make up that deficit, John.
And you're allowed here. You've got that length of track to be able to pick up some of those spots where you drop at the top when you don't have the most competitive start. You do have the length of track to get it back. Oh, first person we've seen hit. And very low through there, getting thrown off the end of Horseshoe. That could have been catastrophic in the past because she was so low. But because they've changed Horseshoe, that allowed her a bit of grace there at the end of the corner. She didn't hit the roof. She just sort of got chucked right out the end, though.
0.7 of a second down. She was great out of Sunny, but that tap in Nash and Dixon has really crucified half the track for her. 1:31.3, still finding speed at the bottom.
The teacher from Perth struggling as a result of that exit of Horseshoe. She's going to be looking to clean that up for her second, third, and fourth runs and see if she can pick off some of these spots that she's lost to other athletes here at the bottom of the track.
Well, so often, John, one corner compromises another. If you get it wrong, these things flow together.
You're preaching to the choir, brother. I know all about it. I've had my fair share of messing up one corner and the trickle-down effect. It's like dominoes. You mess up one corner, and it really affects what happens here. So low through Horseshoe. That's crazy low. Coming up here, the pressure comes back. Corner's done, and it is see you later out the end. Look how low she is coming through here. Wow, 2 sleds lower. Pressure comes back, builds. Corner's done. Fires you out the end like a bullet.
That was nearly the Kirsten Jurgens faceplant. Kirsten coaching the Swiss girls now. Next up is Michelle Steele, the second of our Aussies. And vying for the smallest athlete on tour.
And the only athlete still using that two-handed start, as we mentioned week in, week out about Miss Steele here, but it is worth mentioning because she has such a competitive start for the only person still utilizing that two-handed push start. It might show some of the other athletes that they should be trying it as well if they don't have the one-handed range.
Well, the 50-meter speed is very good, 54.1 kilometers an hour. Only one girl had better, and that was Maria Oliver, who started 1/10 of a second faster.
Exactly, because she can run over the crest and really take advantage of that downward profile because she has the ability to balance with both hands on top of the sled and utilizing that last foot strength to generate speed, and that's really what it's about. 1/10 of a second isn't as important as your 1 mile an hour at the first speed trap.
Good speed for Michelle Steele. She's creeping up on Maria Oliver, our race leader, just reeling her in by the meter. She's overhauled her now. Oliver had 1:31.8 and a really rough exit off these final 4 right-handers. Michelle will be up close to 1:33. Wow, great run from Michelle Steele.
She is so slight, so aerodynamic that she can really pull away from some of the other athletes here at the bottom of the track. And Coach Bernie there is going to be really impressed with his athlete.
And so will Michelle Steele. She'll be showing the single digit as she comes up the line. There it is. And Eric Benotis, yeah, that was a good-looking run.
Yeah, Steely's going to be happy with that one.
Occupational therapist from tropical Queensland, Innis Park on the Sunshine Coast near Bundaberg.
Can see her coming out of Saxgunta, or excuse me, out of, I believe that one's Leap.
Yeah.
The one underneath the bridge actually isn't called bridge, which is kind of strange, I found.
Maybe that's because you can see the bridge from, I don't know.
I think so.
I can see your house from here.
Small bump at the bottom of the track out of Martineau. What's happening this year in Martineau is that you're coming down the corner too soon, and when it pulls you back to the right-hand side, you have a brush there. The idea is to get around the corner a little bit further.
Canada's rookie in Europe this season, Cassie Haresh, journalist from Calgary, born in Brandon, Manitoba. Well, that's more of a winter sports town, I think, than Bundaberg in tropical Queensland.
Well, it is my neck of the woods. It's Westman, Manitoba. That's where I'm from as well. And we both share the same birth date, Cassie and I. And she's been nursing a quad injury. And she's really been doing a lot of work, therapy, trying to get healthy for this championship. 2 weeks ago, she injured it in Koenigsegg while training there.
Well, she came up to me yesterday and pointed out, made a point of saying, I'm not using the black visor. I'm using a lemon visor or apricot visor this weekend. So we've got to admire the blue eyes.
Ooh, really late into Nash-Dixon there, and it caused her to do a lot of work to stay off the entrance of Dixon when she came out of Nash. Nice higher line through Horseshoe.
Nice exit as well. Nice smooth transition, 100.4 kilometers an hour.
She should be able to accelerate down the track there because she didn't have any issues coming out of Horseshoe, didn't hit before telephone.
Well, so far, only 4 sliders have clicked over the 100 kilometer an hour mark there. What she got, 132 and change.
134.1.
Wow, sensational speed.
At the bottom of the track, really smooth there. Takes that small hit, but luckily it's close to the finish line. She picks up another 10th. It's okay. Coming across the finish line in 5th spot right now. 4 tenths back of the leader with 1:10.78. And I think Cassie's got to be pretty pleased with that.
Well, you know, a little mistake perhaps on the exit of Sunny that cost her through Nash and Dixon, and then that's still, you know, holding her back into Horseshoe, but down the bottom, great run.
She really let it rip there, had really nice lines at the bottom of the track there. Coming out of Sunny there, you saw her go late into Nash, and look at her trying to work here to stay off the entrance of Dixon. Actually does a really good job of how late she went into Nash. Has this hit at the bottom of the track there when the pressure comes back as you exit Martineau. Idea to get through there is to maybe hold a little bit of height through the end of that corner. Cassie, always happy.
Well, next up, Olympic silver medalist Shelley Rudman, one of our fastest women in training, last year's overall World Cup champion for the first time in her career. And Richard Bromley holding the Bromley sled at the top of the track.
Shelley hitting the roof in Horseshoe last year. I know that she's going to be trying to work hard to avoid that roof hit. And in the past, actually, I remember watching Jeff Payne hit the roof in Horseshoe, gave him a beautiful exit. It's not quite the same now, sending you down too soon these days, but in the past, that was the idea. Hit the roof in Horseshoe, you're going to be good as gold. Not that case anymore.
British Sliders have won the last 4 World Cup races in St. Moritz. Last year, Lizzie Arnold, the preceding 3, won by Shelley Rudman. So she's definitely got form on this track.
She knows what it's all about. She's got great form, nice lines, and really knows how to work those subtle corners at the bottom of the track to be able to maintain as much speed as possible. She's in the lead right now. Let's see what kind of speed she's got coming out.
Well,
102.6, great speed coming out of Horseshoe.
That's astonishing speed. And the track is getting more polished, John, and the ambient is just starting to climb, but this is a great-looking run.
Yeah, really smooth here at the bottom of the track. Not working hard to get back into these corners, these 4 right-handers at the bottom of the track. 137.2, holy dynamite. She is going to crush it here at the finish line.
85.5 miles an hour, and she leads by 0.8 of a second, 109.54. Wow, no wonder Richard Bromley looked happy with that. And she looked like she wasn't doing anything, and John, and that's the secret.
At the bottom of the track especially, when she wasn't working, she was coming off those corners, beautifully lined up for the next one without having to work to get back to it. That is exactly what she wants here.
Wow, what a great run from Shelley Rudman.
She was going so fast, she was working hard to stop here. Doesn't get as high as some of the other athletes, but she definitely turns the sled at the appropriate time. 102 coming out. You can see she's not working hard here. And that's where she was able to generate that speed at the bottom, was because she had the best speed coming out of Horseshoe.
No toe drags, no extra steering there. The lines were right going on to all the corners. She is getting herself dialed in. Well, what about one of her great rivals over the years, Melissa Hollingsworth of Canada? 32-year-old from Airdrie, Alberta, rodeo rider who slides skeleton is the way she sees her lifestyle.
Rodeo or rodeo, however you want to say it, she does it. And with coming off the start line with a 5:46, Melissa's got to be really happy with that. Her physical training is peaking at the right time as well, and 3 times in a row, Shelley Rudman beat Melissa Hollingsworth here on this track by, I believe, the biggest margin was 3/100ths of a second. So Melissa and Shelley have battled back and forth on this track year in and year out, and now she's chasing her again today there. A little bit skiddy coming off a snake too, and she's 28/100ths of a second back from Shelley already. See what kind of speed she can generate coming out of Horseshoe.
Now the Horseshoe.
Anything less than 102, she's going to be struggling to try and keep up.
42.56.
101.5, not bad, but not as fast as Shelley, and she's going to be having her work cut out for her, trying to chip away at that deficit that she's got behind Shelley right now. Skids coming back to bridge a little bit. Nice and middle out, though.
Well, she was in 14th place off her start. Now she's in 3rd spot, 6/10ths back, 135.4's good speed, 2nd quickest. And she makes it up into 2nd place, 110.33.
That's 2, eh?
2nd spot, but 8/10ths back. Just shows how fast Shelley was. Wow, 8/10ths back, and she's in 2nd place.
Now, we talked about this in the team race, John, that the bobsleds historically are much closer together on consecutive runs than skeleton, because skeleton sleds are so much harder to control.
There's way more variability driving a skeleton sled. We don't have that same level of control. We don't have a steering mechanism, and you're always going to find a greater variance in start times as well. Melissa didn't have the highest line through Horseshoe, but it wasn't bad at all. And coming out with speeds of 101, she was good enough for 2nd place. She's disappointed with that because she knows how far back she is, but we're really going to see how well Shelley did when we see Noelle Pica's pace come down. Right now, she absolutely obliterated the track record in the team competition. Let's see if she can keep that kind of heading that she had started earlier in the week.
Well, before she retired, the girl from Orem, Utah was only 4 times a race winner at the top level, and the 4th one was the 2007 World Championships here in St. Moritz. So again, here is a woman who has got form on this track.
Well, and she started, you saw her with her left runner in the right groove, all the way over as far right as she could get so that she could have a better line into kink 1. And, you know, that might be the secret. Who knows? I'll have to maybe try that for the first time in the race tomorrow. 2/10ths back right now.
Yep. Again, 14th fastest start and already up to 8th place.
She just seems to find speed where other athletes don't there. Nice and smooth through Horseshoe. She's got some of the best lines through there. Stays off the wall at the exit of Telephone into Shamrock. 102.1. She's got the kind of speed that she can be competitive with Shelley at the bottom of the track here. If she can get to 138, she will definitely be close. 2/10ths back now. She's picking away bit by bit. Smooth through the bottom of the track here.
102.2 was great speed. She's still close.
357, not the kind of speed we saw from Shelley, but she'll definitely be in 2nd place between her and Melissa.
As long as you get only 1 loose out of your 4 runs, then you've got a real opportunity. 109.99, only 2 girls cracking the 110 barrier. Shelley Rudman, the leader. Noelle Pica's pace in 2nd spot.
They got baby power on their side. 2 mothers, 2 leaders at this point.
Well, for years familiar for her bright pink race suit. She's changed that for the stars and stripes, but still keeps that pink on board, and a big start and a great slide from Noelle. So next up is our reigning world champion, one of her days of days last year in American Ice in Lake Placid, Katie Ulender. Again, expect a big start from this girl. She's out to defend her title.
I don't know if Katie knows what to expect today either. She's spent about 15 hours working on a broken sled this week. Kazuhiro Koshi from Japan was helping her weld some stabilizer bars on her sled because the runners were actually splayed out, allowing her to not be able to control the sled and making a whole lot of racket while she was sliding. But it looks like things are super stable now. Really beautiful line through kink 1, kink 2, down to wall.
She already has 3 World Championship medals. She could be the first woman in history to gain 4 if she claims a podium spot here.
And only 500ths back there, and that's all because of the start. Let's see if she can keep this speed that she's got going there, doing very little work to achieve her lines nice and high through that corner there. Should have some really great speeds here, but she's dropped back a little bit more. 101 for speeds coming out of there. It's got to be 4th fastest out of Horseshoe.
And you heard her steering quite noticeably in horseshoe, just to get the line she needed. What she got at the bottom.
3/10. She's losing a little bit of speed here.
Shelley Rudman, 137. She needs to be 135s, not quite close enough.
Third or fourth here, coming across the finish line. Third spot.
She is in third spot.
Just in front of Melissa Hollingsworth. She's just under 8/10 back, and Melissa was, I believe, just 1/100th behind her at 79/100ths.
Yeah, so that is very close. Both she and Mel looking for a record 4th World Championship medal.
You can see her, she's one of the highest athletes through horseshoe, taking it very close to the roof, very early though, and that helps her get down soon enough so that she doesn't get pushed across hard before telephone.
Katie Uhlaender lies third. She took bronze last time the Worlds were here behind winner Noel Piker's pace, but Shelley Rudman is our current leader. So we're getting down into our final 4 sliders in this first of 4 heats, and here is one of the expected front runners. Don't want to put too much pressure on young Lizzie Arnold from Sevenoaks in Kent, but as a former junior world champion and a race winner here last year in a snowy race, great start from her. She's been showing great form in training as well.
Well, she's able to find speed where other athletes, just like Noelle, can't find it. She was, I believe, 11th fastest speed coming out of horseshoe in one of the training days, and was 3rd by the bottom of the track, even going faster than a lot of the men.
54.1 kilometers an hour momentum in the first corner. That's a great speed. She's just easing away from Shelley Rudman. And again, just relaxing onto the sled and almost doing nothing.
Nice and smooth through horseshoe. Really beautiful line through that corner there.
Look how close they are. 400ths of a second, 100.7. Not as quick as Shelley Rudman at 102.6.
Not even close. She's going to be falling behind here. Let's see if she can get back to some 135 speed so that she can maintain second spot here.
Sled setup, runner choice maybe playing a part in this as well, because the lines look good. That's good speed. Is it going to see her in second place or third spot? Going to be very close at the line with Noel Piker's pace. She is in third, ahead of Katie Uhlaender.
It's okay, it's okay.
Coach Mickey there saying it's okay, it should be. She's in third spot, she's
Yep.
6/10 back, and being 6/10 back of a blistering run that Shelley Rudman had isn't that bad right now.
And again, she may have chosen runners that are not as favourable now and might come into their own a little bit as the temperature of the track warms up later for the second run.
Coming into horseshoe here, nice and late, takes it high early, and then turns the sled nicely. Staying just off of that left-hand wall there at the exit of Telephone to Shamrock. That's a really tough thing to do. She comes in nice into Telephone, has that brush there.
Next up, 25-year-old pocket rocket Sarah Reed, 5'2". She is our tiniest skeleton slider, but boy, the 2008 Junior World Champion is an electrifying starter. 5:37 getaway for her.
Not the kind of start that she was hoping for. She had a faster start, I believe, with a 5:29 at the team competition. So 5:37's a bit back of that, and I think it might be because she ran a bit deep there. Sarah's parents here flew in from Calgary, so they're here supporting her this week. They're not watching on TV.
Great to see so many friends and family having made the trip to St. Moritz, and it's a massive magnet. You know, it's like the Monaco Grand Prix. Grand Prix has got that allure.
It is the flagship event. The people here support it. There's so much history and culture surrounding the sliding. Sarah coming into horseshoe nice and high. Beautiful line through there. She should have some good speeds coming out. 101. Not bad at all. She can find some speed at the bottom of the track here, keep things together. She's going to be in the mix.
Well, anywhere in the top 6, you've got to fancy your chances of a medal. Half a second back. She's currently carving her way down to 9th place. Little hit there is not going to help.
And she's on a Bromley, just like Shelley, almost the exact same kind of sled, but 132 speed. She lost some time at the bottom of the track with that right-hand wall hit coming out of leap into Saxe-Günther.
That drops her down to 8th place at the line. And again, as you said, not the start that I expected to see from her, and a couple of errors on the run as well.
Yeah, at the bottom of the track there, that hit on the right-hand side there really caused her to bleed some speed. She gets high into that next corner and leap, and comes out floppy. See her, she's high in bridge there. Comes across, hits this left-hand wall there, and it sends her super high and loopy into leap.
Reacting immediately to try and counter that. Sarah Reid currently lies in 8th place. Shelley Rubman of Great Britain, the leader, with 2 sleds to go in the first of 4 heats in the Women's Skeleton World Championship. Next up are 2 Germans who, between them, already have 3 senior-level World Championship titles. 1 in 2008 for this young lady, Anja Huber. She sees herself as definitely the veteran of the German team. She's 29 years old. She's already competed in over 65 top-class races.
That's incredible. She started luge when she was really young, and the challenge for Anja today is going to be that toe of hers. Yesterday, she dragged her foot through horseshoe, and because of the 4-man bobsleds, 5:30 start getaway, not bad. Because of those 4-man bobsleds creating big ruts in that corner, she caught her toe on one of those bumps, and ooh, she's really struggling here. You can already see she's disappointed with that. But she had the biggest toe I'd ever seen. It was pretty mangled, and with a 5:30 start getaway, that's not that bad for being injured today.
Yikes. You forget until you hurt them how much you rely on your toes for balance, and of course steering on a skeleton is going to be very painful if she's dragging that toe.
Well, and she was using it a lot there coming down the straightaway, and we're going to see the results of that here at the exit of horseshoe. Ouch, not going to have the speeds. 96.4. She is going to be nowhere in competition at this point. She's going to continue to lose time.
Well, the pain she's feeling from all the other hits may take some of the pain of the toe away, but boy, this is not the run that Anja Huber wanted.
No, catastrophic for Anja. She's really going to be hard-pressed to get into the top 10.
Well, at the moment, she's struggling to make the top 20. This is our world champion from 2008.
And this is what can happen, like we were talking about, 23rd coming across the line there. Coach is disappointed with that, so is Anja going to be. At this point, she can't see the clock yet, but she's got her fingers crossed. And now the realization sets in. She sees the time.
But John, she'll know, won't she? She'll know it was horrible from start to finish.
But you're hoping. Every time you cross that finish line after a garbage run, you're hoping that it's not the time that you're going to see on the board. And unfortunately, from the very top of the track here, hits from kink 2 down to wall, it just sort of fell apart. Sorry, kink 1 down to kink 2.
Hard exit out of horseshoe.
Hit out of horseshoe. She was early going in there. The pressure built all the way around, and poor Anja there has got one of her more disappointing results probably of her career with that with that run right there.
29th and final slider. World Cup leader Marion Thies had the first choice of where she would like to start. She chose last out to try and get the fastest ice because her start isn't going to help her here.
Not going to help her on the start. She's 1600ths behind at this point. 5:55 isn't bad for Marion Thies. Competitively, being only 1500ths behind. The race leader right now, Shelley Rudman, didn't have the most phenomenal start either, but she's got the length of the track to find the speed that she needs. But because Shelley was so fast, I question whether or not Marion can do it. But if anybody can, it would be her, because she does find a lot of speed on some of the driver's tracks out there.
She had a couple of problems stitching together the run from Sunny through Nash and Dixon to Horseshoe here in training. That looks neat.
Early in there, 101.2, pretty good for speeds, but not the 102.7, I believe, that we saw from Shelley.
Yeah, Shelley down the bottom, 137.2 kilometers an hour. There'll be a lot of guys in the men's field that'll be pretty pleased with a speed like that.
Yeah, I'll take that tomorrow.
Yeah. 134.5, that's about the third fastest we've seen, so she's finding speed at the bottom. Can she break into the top 10? She does in 8th place.
Yeah, German coaches are ho-hum about that one too. It's a come see, come saw kind of result for their athletes.
Well, off a 23rd place start to drive herself into 8th, it shows where her strong suit is.
Absolutely, it's in the driving, but really tough to compete when someone like Shelley put down the kind of smoker that she did. Coming into horseshoe early, but does manage to take it up aggressively. You can see her steering hard there. The elbows are coming out. And that's not the typical form that we've seen from Marion Thies in the past there. She's working really hard, probably not to let the sled run out as much as she has other times.
Well, she may well yet end up as our World Cup champion, but in 8th place here after the first heat. Shelley Rudman of Great Britain has really unleashed a blinding first run here. And John Montgomery, that's got to do so much for her confidence and her mood of relaxation.
For sure. I think that Shelley probably brought the runners that she used in Winterberg that allowed her to win the Winterberg race by a second. here to World Championships in St. Moritz, because man, she is showing that kind of form and that kind of run again with this level of competitiveness that we haven't seen from her really all season long. She was absolutely ripping on that first run.
Well, she and Kristen Bromley, her partner, have spent the whole season training and working on equipment for this World Championships. And as a result, she has a handy lead over Noel Piker's pace, Lizzie Arnold, and the defending world champion, Katie Uhlaender, lying in 4th place. All 29 sleds in the first of our 4 heats made it down safely, and they will all go through into the next heat. We'll go 20 down to 1, and then 22 to 29 as we get ready to go back on the ice here in St. Moritz for the second of 4 heats of the Bauhaus FIBT Women's Skeleton World Championships. So join Olympic champion John Montgomery, friends and family, and lots of locals here on the ice in St. Moritz. We'll be back with Heat 2 and see whether the squirrels stay out of the track and whether our leader can hold on to her first round advantage.